please give your kind attention to your groom,
who will propose the toast of the afternoon. Thank you. My lords, ladies and gentlemen, my wife and I would like to thank you all for being here today to share our special day. And it's an honour and a privilege to be in the company of so many distinguished guests who are pleased they could make it. Laughing there. I would just like to say, for those who don't know, I hatched my cunning plan to marry Simone way back in April last year.
Yeah.
And it was a cunning plan, more cunning than a fox and hotter than my pants.
Oh, I don't flash, put it away now, dear.
So that song, Goodness Gracious, Great Balls of Fire, comes to mind. It was a plan that started in Singapore and ended in Venice, the city of love, on the 2nd November, Simone's birthday. I bought the engagement ring in Singapore under the pretext that it was simply a dress ring. A very beautiful and expensive dress ring, but certainly not an engagement ring. When we were in Venice, I bought Simone an eternity ring under the pretext of, you've got it, a dress ring. And certainly not an eternity ring, but it was a very expensive and beautiful eternity ring.
There's a theme here, isn't there? He's wanting payback, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, come the evening of Simone's birthday, we went to a fine dining restaurant. Interrupting. We were given a romantic table, and Simone was presented with her favourite flower, a yellow rose. Then we were given a 4-course romantic menu and a heart-shaped finishing cake. It was at that point I presented Simone with the ring and asked her to marry me. Now, uncharacteristically for Simone, and I think you'll agree, she was silent.
I was.
And after what seemed like an eternity, I said, well, and she looked at me and said, well, what? Well, is it a yes or is it a no? And the rest is history. Now, tradition dictates that the groom has to deliver 1 or 2 toasts. But before we get into the toast, I'd just like to give you a word of warning, especially to those people like me who like to guzzle champagne. There's only 1 glass of champagne and 5 toasts. So I'll let you work out the maths. Now, it's, I have to be honest, it isn't really champagne. We couldn't afford that, could we, dear?
No.
No. We couldn't even stretch to sparkling wine. But I've got the next best thing. White wine with an Alka-Seltzer top it. That will do 4 things. It will give fizz, give the illusion that it's champagne, and it will stop heartburn and indigestion, which you'll get later on tonight after consuming so much alcohol and food. Now, not everybody could be with us today, but I'm sure they're here in spirit, and they're in our hearts and minds at the moment. What I'd like to do is say some thank yous to some people who have been directly involved in making today special. First of all, I'd like to thank Kathy. I don't know where Kathy is. Kathy made... I haven't got my glasses on, so contact lenses. I didn't have time to get my contact lenses in today. Who made Simone's dress, my coat and waistcoat. I'd like to thank Karen at Funky Flowers for the flower arrangements and Kellyanne for the cake. I'd also like to thank the harpist, I think it's called Ruth, yeah. who at the very late notice plucked up the courage and stood in for our original harpist who broke a wrist on Thursday. I'm assuming that she broke the wrist and she's not stringing me along.
No, she didn't. Oh, Doug. Boom, boom. Don't start.
I'd also like to thank Phil, our photographer, and our camera guys today, and the staff at Lumley Castle, and everybody else that's been directly involved in making today special. So thank you. Finally, what I'd like you all to do is, if you could please be upstanding and join me in a toast to absent family and friends. To absent family and friends.
Family and friends. First sip.
First sip, good girl. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's a very good
Went
Alka-Seltzer.
for it. It is, isn't it? It's quality Alka-Seltzer. I'm not stingy, I always get the best. Within the reasonable price range. Now, Simone's parents, Stephen and Teresa, couldn't be with us today, but I think it's only fair and proper that I thank Stephen for giving me his daughter's hand in marriage. Now, what you don't know is Stephen's a very, very generous guy, because not only did he give me the hand, as you can see, he gave me the arms, the head, the torso, and the legs. For what is a hand without the rest of the body? Absolutely no use to anyone. I'd personally like to thank Stephen and Teresa for bringing up a lovely maladjusted daughter. I mean, just a lovely daughter, not maladjusted. Balanced daughter, I meant to say. A daughter who is very loving, very caring, very generous, very thoughtful, always puts people's needs and wants before herself, and always goes the extra mile, and very, very rarely do you ever hear her utter a word of complaint.
Oh, Doug. You'll make me cry.
That's the whole idea, dear. Do you want to?
Thank you.
Now I've lost my train of thought. Now.
Sorry.
It's all right. You can thank me later.
That payback again, it's terrible, isn't it?
I would like to thank my father for escorting Simone to the Scarborough State Room, making sure she gets there safely, not getting lost or running away. Thank you.
Or late.
Or late, yes.
So I was on
yes.
time.
You're on time, that's a unique.
change.
Yeah, very unique. Nice change. I'd like to thank both my parents for the love and affection, the guidance and direction, help and support they've given me over the years. And at this point, I'd like to show my appreciation to my mum by giving her a little gift. Try not to knock anything over. And finally, I would like to thank, well, Simone and I would like to thank both parents for providing the ingredients and the environment in which we were conceived, for without that we wouldn't be here today. My lords, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding and join me in a toast to the parents. To the parents.
Number 2.
Apart from my wife, there are 3 other beautiful girls here today, the bridesmaids. We've got Gemma at the end, then Karis and Samaria. And Simone and I would like to thank the bridesmaids for being beautiful and wonderful today. I'd also like to thank, we both would like to thank Joe, my best man, and my ushers, Graham and Andrew. And I think you'll agree with me that Joe's bird handling skills were very, very impressive. When that owl flap flew towards him, he didn't get in a flap as it landed on his hand. And it's bird handling skills like that that will stand Joe in good stead. Skills Kids like that will stand Joe in good stead when he's a lot older, when he has to handle birds of a different variety.
Sorry, Joe.
So, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding and join me in another toast. To the bridesmaids, the best man and the ushers.
Thank you.
Now to the most important person in the room, my wife. Simone, I'd like to say in front of all our distinguished guests these words. This is going to be difficult. Anyway, you are the only one who ignites my imagination. You are the only one who can keep pace with my passion. You are the only one who understands and can embrace my emotions. You don't have to jump through hoops of fire. You don't even have to perform death-defying acts or walk on water, for I love you for who you are. With this in mind, start to cry, don't you? Don't want to really make up. With these things in mind, I'd like to make 3 wishes, and all come true. The first wish is a heartfelt wish, that from today onwards you find everlasting happiness. The second is a loving wish. A loving wish that the world will be as wonderful and as good to you as you have been to me. And the third wish is a special wish that will never be apart and will always share the love with me that's in your heart. Finally, I'd like to say this. Thank you for giving that little boy you once saw behind that tree his dreams back. And not only that, more importantly, helping him to live those dreams. My lords, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding and join me in a toast to the bride.
Thank you.
You're going to ruin your makeup.
There's not a dry eye in the house here. You've got them all going.
You've got any eye makeup removers as well as I can say?
Yeah, we've got those. Makeup removal ones.
Now, at this point, I was going to hand over to Joe, my best man, so he could do his speech. But Joe's asked me if I can do it on his behalf. So I don't know how this is going to work.
You'll have to talk about yourself, dear. To yourself.
I'm good at that. I'm good at talking to myself. So what I need you now to do is pretend that I'm Joe, the best man, delivering the best man speech. And like I said, I don't know how it's going to work, but time will tell. So here goes. My speech resembles one of my mum's very, very short skirts. Long enough to cover the bare essentials, and yet short enough to keep your imagination and hold your attention. My mum and Doug had their first close encounter way back in August 2006. Doug says, although my mum remembers it completely differently, that he was sitting in the office doing his work, minding his own business, when the mother of all hurricanes rushes into the room. At the centre of this hurricane was a whirlwind that had more whirls than a whirling dervish, clad in black and carrying more bags than a Waitrose delivery van. Well, after all, my mum does like quality.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Now, Doug was sitting there, and his spiky hair was swaying like wheat in the field, causing his head to rock backwards and forwards like that, like a pendulum on a grandfather clock. Now Doug does have an appetite for a good Chinese, especially a hot and spicy Chinese. And he wasn't sure whether his chopstick skills were up to handling my mum. After all, she's a formidable woman, and she's a real hard act to follow. Now Doug is the kind of guy who likes to play his cards close to his chest, especially when he meets somebody for the first time. Doesn't like to reveal too much about himself. Likes to weigh and measure people and work out the lay of the land before he enters into a debate, a discussion, a game or a battle. So, and I have to say, my grandma refers to Doug as kiasu, which means, or literally means, fear of losing. Well, this was one battle he was going to lose. For after half an hour of intensive interrogation, Doug had spelt his beans on his life. He'd given his life story, his loves, his hates, all his secrets. Doug felt as if he had been weighed, measured, stripped naked, and turned inside out. You're right, dear.
Here's some funny stuff. I'm just trying to laugh.
You laugh, go on.
Carry on.
Okay, thank you. At the end of the interrogation, my mum said, "Do you know what? You're very unusual. You're not really what you seem." And she said, for someone who's a quality manager, all about compliance to policy, process, procedure, she said, "You're a real nonconformist and really Machiavellian, aren't you?" And Doug smiled and whispered quietly, "I'm going to have to watch you." And Doug did, for a very, very safe distance. The second close encounter came at the office Christmas party in 2007, and I know what you're thinking, but it wasn't like that. Doug was bored, and he was staring into his pint glass, watching the bubbles rise and break to the surface, when my mum, after 4 pints of Dutch courage, came up to Doug and asked him to dance. So off they went towards the dance floor, just at the point in time where the band changed the music from, or changed the rhythm and the tempo of the music from quick to slow, and started playing While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And the dance floor then emptied. So my mum, panicked, feeling embarrassed and very awkward and difficult, looked at Doug and said, "Shall we go back?" But no, not Doug. He wasn't one for turning and pressed on. Now, Doug hadn't been on the dance floor since 1985.
He's showing your age, dear. He's showing your age.
I don't need to, you keep reminding everybody. There's no secrets of me. So, where was I? Oh yes. So, Doug's dancing skills hadn't deserted him. In fact, those skills would put Patrick Swayze from Dirty Dancing to shame. Now, this hadn't gone unnoticed, for the operations director, who was sitting some distance away, squinting and screwing his eyes because he didn't have his contact lenses in, was trying to make sense of the apparition that was on the dance floor. In the end, in his Yorkshire accent, he turned round and said, "Hey, is that who I think it is?" And the reply came, "Yes." "Well, what are they doing?" "Dancing," came the next reply. "Oh, aye, dancing, is that what they call it?" Then the next voice said, "Are they married?" And the reply was, "Oh, aye, but to different people." The third close encounter came a few years later, on the evening of Halloween. Mum and Doug had been out for a meal and were just about to say goodbye, when suddenly, unexpectedly, without any warning, their lips locked like two sumo wrestlers in a battle. And after what seemed like an age, they came up for breath. For Doug to exclaim, "Bang on! Singapore girls really know how to kiss. This one's got a tongue like an electric eel, and I like the way she tickles my tonsils."
Oh, Douglas.
Now, of course,
Children, cover your ears.
now, of course, that didn't really happen, but I wanted my mum's face to go red like her dress. Anyway, as my mum's already pointed out, Doug is a bit unusual. He likes to play things close to his chest. You never know what he's thinking, you never know how he's going to behave, and you never know what he's going to say, and he can be sometimes quite controversial and say things that are a bit OTT. For example, I'm sure you've all watched the TV comedy programme Little Britain and familiar with, Darren knows what's coming next. Are you familiar with Ting Tong, the Thai maid or her bride, and Mr. Dudley, her husband, or Dudley, as she calls him? Well, picture the scene. Simone standing in a very crowded bar in the Hilton Hotel, very noisy, and Doug walks in and sees my mum and shouts over, "Hello, Ting Tong! How are you?" And Simone's, my mum, true to form, turns around and goes, "Ah, Mr. Dugwee! How are you?" Well, the bar went absolutely silent, and no one knew where to put themselves or where to look. My mum and Doug then started to laugh, and eventually the rest of the bar laughed with them. Then we had the bank incident. My mum and Doug were sitting in the bank talking to the bank manager, and it's one of these open plan banks where everybody can walk past and listen in and watch what's going on. And the bank manager turned around and said, "Can I have details of your bank account?" So my mum and Doug pulled out the Connect cards, and Doug noticed that my mum's was black and his was blue, and at the same time Doug started to grow some horns and a pointed tail, and his eyes went yellow. And he set his trap for the bank manager by saying, "How come she's got a black one and I've got a blue one?" And he went, "Oh, sir," well, I should say, he then sprung the trap by saying, "Ah, well, sir, that's easy. She is a premier banker and you're not." Then Doug closed the trap by turning around and saying, "Well, I am a premier banker, so why has she got a black one and I've got a blue one?" And then Doug, before the bank manager could say anything else, turned around and said, "I know what it is. I'm a man, she's a woman. I'm white, she's yellow. I'm English, she's Chinese. It's discrimination." Well, the bank manager didn't know where to put himself, but my mum, true to form, came to his rescue. Then we had the wedding registrar incident. Mum and Doug went to... Sorry?
Yes.
You remember that one? Mum and Doug went to register the marriage, and they had to go through a list of questions, and they got to the question that said, "Are you brother and sister?" Now, the registrar said, "Oh, I noticed you share the same surname." And Doug went, "Oh, fair cop, you've rumbled us. Can't fool you. You can see the resemblance, can't you?" Unfortunately, the registrar had a good sense of humour, and we wouldn't be here today.
So we'd be in jail.
You're not my sister, by the way.
No.
You got anything to tell me now? Anyway, sorry, I digress. So, to the final toast of the day. So, look, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding and join me in the toast of the health and happiness of the bride and groom, Mr. and Mrs. Warren, to Doug and Simone.
Mrs. Warren.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now that we've come come to the end of the speeches and toasts. The purpose of today is to have fun and enjoy yourselves. We've planned a magician. Well, you're not supposed to know this, but we've planned a magician at the end of the speeches, like now. And the bar, we've got a private bar, and it'll be open all day and until the last guest falls over in a stupor. Or 11:30 really.
12.
Oh, 12 is it? Oh, Bill, 12.
Diet Peroni.
Alcohol-free Diet Peroni, isn't it? Yeah. We will have the disco at 7 o'clock. The bride and groom will be doing their first dance at 8:15, and I'll be doing my Patrick Swayze Dirty Dancing. So you can all see what it was all about.
Yeah.
Is that what they call it these days?
And at 8:30 we have a buffet, and then at 10 o'clock there's more entertainment that will involve a lot of explosions and banging. I don't quite know what that means, but mind boggles. So, thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed today and will continue to enjoy today. And thank you, and enjoy yourselves.
Thank you.